Welcome back. My name is Nomad, and I'm actually not shooting from no man's land today. I'm up at my parents' visiting for New Year's, and I brought some equipment up so I could do some video tutorials, give you an idea of where I come from as far as gear, and being a professional musician on a budget. I want to start by saying today I'm covering snare drums, and I've got a lot of snare drums, more than most people really need to be effective. That being said, of the 5 snare drums that I have that I use semi-regularly, one of them gets 70 to 75% of the playtime, and one other gets probably 10 to 15. So the other 3 are kind of specialty snares or they're backups. So I'll go through them, try to make this quick, but feel free to email me or leave a comment if you have any questions about any of this. First up is my main snare drum, which is a Sonar SQ1. I love Sonar. I've been a Sonar player for 25 years, and I love Birch. So this Birch Sonar snare is everything I need. I can tune it high, I can tune it low. It's got a great tone, but not too much sustain. It is my go-to snare, period. If I have the time to prep for a show, tune it up, this is the way I go 70 to 75% of the time. Again, that's a Sonar SQ1. Next up is my DW collectors. This is a 4.5 by 14 maple. It's got a thick shell. I actually took this one out on the road with me this summer. This summer I went out to Montana. Oddly enough, during COVID, went out to Montana and played with a band for the summer. I brought this one out instead of my Sonar because I wanted to give this one some playtime and really get a feel for it. It's a great snare. Right now it's tuned down pretty low for a 4 by 14, but that's because I was using it as my primary snare. I'm thinking about setting it up with my main kit as an auxiliary snare tuned a little higher. I've got a pretty thick head on it. I've got a Remo control sound coated on it, so I'll probably switch it to a thinner head, something like an Ambassador, and tune it up a little higher. Typically speaking, I use Ambassadors on snares. So again, my number 2 snare is this beautiful green sparkle DW Collectors 4 by 14. I don't know why I keep saying 4.5. Next up is a snare that I would love to play more. It's another DW. It's the Drum Workshop series. Black nickel over brass. This drum sounds fantastic. I've, however, never played a show with it because it sounds like garbage when you play it light. You really have to hit this thing hard. The brass shell is gorgeous. It cuts through like a gunshot, but you have to play it so loudly to really get that killer tone. It is a beautiful drum. I am kicking around the idea of maybe getting rid of this one and going back to my old brass snare, which was a Pearl Free Floater that I played for, probably 15 years. I sold that when I got this DW in a trade, thinking that this would be a better drum. I will say it does sound better than the Free Floater, but you just have to hit it so hard. Like, it really doesn't sound good with a light tap or anything like that. But when you lay into it, especially with the rim shots, it's rich, it's full, and it'll get through any mix. Again, it's a Drum Workshop series DW, black nickel over brass. This next one's kind of an oddball in my collection. I got it in a trade and actually didn't play it for quite some time. It's an inexpensive snare, and when I first put it on Craigslist trying to sell it, because it was a cheap snare, and typically speaking I play pretty nice gear, I I put it on Craigslist for 75 bucks, and I didn't even get any lowball offers on it. So after a while, I stopped even putting ads out for it. I stuck it in a case until last year when my daughter wanted to learn to play drums, and I told her to go through my snare drums and pick one out. That's the one she picked. So I tuned it up, and the thing actually sounds great. And it is a Yamaha SD 245. It's a steel snare student model, but it really sounds good. And I'll tell you, all of my other snares sound better than this snare. However, if I'm in a hurry, or if I get a last minute gig and I don't know if I'm going to have time to tune up my snare, I will always bring this one, because like I say, the other snares, they sound better. But this one always sounds good right out of the case, and I never have to mess around with it. Like I say, it's a cheap student model snare. It's just steel, but it will never sound fantastic, but it will also never sound bad. Last but not least, in the snares that I use regularly, is an auxiliary snare. This is another Sonar. Again, I'm a big Sonar fan. This is a Force 3007. A lot of times people look down on the Sonar Force series because they were their entry-level drums, but there are some absolutely fantastic deals that you can find in some maple and birch kits. A lot of them are cheap. They're going to be Luan, they're going to be plywood, they're going to be Filipino mahogany, but the Force 3000, the 3005, and the 3007 are all maple. In the 2000 series, the 2005 and the 2007 are all birch, and those sound great. I actually got one for my kid when she was learning to play drums, and I got a steal on it. I got a 5-piece kit with a snare. I think it was the 2005, and I got it for, I want to say, $250 or something like that. It was really, really affordable. The finish wasn't great, but it sounded fantastic. It was the type of kit that I would have no qualms going and playing a professional gig. This one's a smaller one. It's a 5x12. Again, it's a maple 3007. This is what I have been using as an auxiliary snare for a while. The DW, the Green Sparkle DW, might take its place. We'll see, but I really love this snare. I wish the throw-off wasn't plastic, but I haven't had any problems with it, and I honestly don't use it that much, so I don't see having any problems with it. But if someone were to use it a lot, you might want to go with either a higher quality snare or putting a different throw-off on it. When I bought this, I was actually about to pull the trigger on a Sonar ProLite 5x12, and that ProLite was a magnificent drum, really fantastic, but it was 3 times as much as this, and this drum really sounds good. Again, it's kind of like the Yamaha. It's not going to knock my socks off, but it will sound as good as I need it to sound, and it cost a third. So my choices for snares: first, the Sonar SQ1. Second, the DW 4x14 maple. Then the DW black nickel over brass. The Yamaha SD 245. And the auxiliary Sonar Force 3007. Like I say, if you're new to playing drums, get yourself a solid snare. You don't have to go crazy. Something like a think of the Pearl Chad Smith signature snare. That's a great steel shell snare. It looks really cool. It's got the black nickel on the outside. I've seen those go for $100 or less. Really solid drums. Another one is that you can get for pretty inexpensive. It's like a Ludwig Acrolite. That was my first decent snare drum, and I played that thing until it just fell apart. I was losing tension rods, and I warped the shell at one point. I just played that thing like crazy for years and years, and I think I paid maybe $70 or $75, something like that. Now granted, that was a long time ago. I think now the going rate for them is more like $150, but don't think you need to buy 5 snare drums. These are snare drums that I've acquired over the 25 years that I've been playing that fit all those notches. And like I say, I could easily go down to 1 snare drum and play my Sonar SQ1 6.5 by 14 absolutely all the time, and I would be fine. These other snares give me options that I have when I want something that's just a little bit different. So anyway, questions, comments, feel free to hit me up. I'm glad to do a lighter topic than my last video, and I'm hoping to do some more gear videos coming forward. So have some other drum related stuff. I've also got some guitar related stuff, so stay tuned, and thank you much for listening.